Welcome, weary travelers, to the gentle realm where Hawkins' deepest secrets unfold like whispered bedtime stories. Tonight, we journey through the quiet corridors of creativity, exploring the hidden truths that shaped every supernatural moment in our beloved series. From real government experiments that inspired fictional horrors to the countless human hands that crafted interdimensional magic, we'll trace the delicate threads connecting reality to imagination. So settle into your most comfortable sanctuary. Let the soft glow of curiosity wash over you, and allow these behind-the-scenes revelations to carry you into peaceful slumber as we discover the beautiful mysteries behind every haunting detail. The shadows that would eventually consume Hawkins' laboratory and birth horrors beyond human comprehension found their inspiration not in the realm of pure imagination, but in the documented darkness of real government programs that operated beyond public scrutiny during the decades when American intelligence agencies believed that national security justified experiments that violated every principle of human dignity and constitutional protection that civilized societies claimed to uphold. The Central Intelligence Agency's MK-Ultra program, which operated from 1953 through 1973, represented one of the most extensive and ethically bankrupt research initiatives in American history, its tentacles reaching into universities and hospitals and private facilities where unsuspecting citizens became unwilling subjects in studies designed to unlock the secrets of human consciousness through methods that ranged from psychological manipulation to pharmaceutical experimentation that left permanent damage in minds that had never consented to such violation. The official documentation that eventually emerged through congressional investigations and Freedom of Information Act requests revealed systematic programs of mind control research that employed techniques borrowed from the darkest chapters of human experimentation. Scientists and intelligence operatives collaborating in efforts to develop what they euphemistically termed enhanced interrogation methods, while pursuing the ultimate goal of creating programmable human agents whose loyalty and memory could be controlled through chemical and psychological conditioning. The lysergic acid diethylamide experiments that formed the cornerstone of MK-Ultra's pharmaceutical research involved administering powerful hallucinogenic drugs to subjects who ranged from willing volunteers seeking easy money, psychiatric patients and prisoners who had no knowledge that their treatment included experimental substances that could permanently alter their brain chemistry and psychological stability. The researchers documenting reactions and side effects with the clinical detachment of people who viewed human beings as laboratory equipment rather than individuals deserving protection from institutional abuse. The sensory deprivation research that would later inspire Eleven's flotation tank experiences began in facilities where subjects were isolated in soundproof chambers or submerged in temperature-controlled water for hours or days. At a time, scientists measuring the psychological effects of removing normal environmental stimulation while administering drugs designed to heighten suggestibility and break down the mental barriers that prevented complete personality reconstruction. Through external manipulation and chemical intervention, the hypnosis studies that attempted to implant false memories and create multiple personalities within single individuals reflected the program's ultimate ambition to develop techniques that could transform ordinary people into weapons whose conscious minds remained unaware of their programmed purposes. Intelligence handlers envisioning scenarios where activated agents could carry out assassination, assignments, or espionage activities without retaining any memory of their involvement once their missions were completed. Dr. Martin Brenner's paternalistic manipulation of the numbered children in Hawkins' laboratory directly mirrored the documented behavior of MK-Ultra researchers who cultivated relationships of dependency and trust with their subjects. while systematically destroying their capacity for independent thought and authentic emotional connection. The fictional Papa, representing a composite portrait of real scientists who convinced themselves that their pursuit of national security objectives justified the systematic abuse of vulnerable individuals who lacked the pacidate, resources, or knowledge necessary to protect themselves from institutionnelle exploitation. The Montauk Project conspiracy theories that provided additional inspiration for the Duffer Brothers' fictional world emerged from claims about classified experiments allegedly conducted at Camp Hero, a decommissioned military base on Long Island, where believers insisted that government scientists had developed time travel technology and psychic warfare capabilities through programs that continued the most extreme aspects of MKUltra research into the 1980s and beyond. The folklore surrounding Montauk described underground facilities where kidnapped children with natural psychic abilities were subjected to mind control experiments designed to amplify their powers while ensuring their complete loyalty to handlers who viewed them as assets rather than human beings. The alleged victims reporting memories of psychological conditioning that bore striking similarities to the experiences depicted in Stranger Things, despite the lack of credible evidence that such programs actually existed at the claimed location and time periods. The resonance between Montauk mythology and documented MKUltra activities suggested deeper truths about government willingness to sacrifice individual welfare for perceived national interests. The conspiracy theories gaining credibility not through factual verification, but through their reflection of patterns of institutional behavior that had been thoroughly documented in other contexts where intelligence agencies had demonstrated consistent disregard for legal and ethical constraints. When pursuing objectives that seemed to justify extraordinary measures, the original title Montauk that the Duffer Brothers initially chose for their series reflected their intention to ground supernatural horror in recognizable historical context, the real-world connections, providing foundation for fictional extrapolations that felt plausible because they drew upon documented examples of government programs that had actually violated public trust and individual rights in service of classified research that operated beyond democratic oversight or constitutional protection. The transformation from Montauk to Stranger Things represented evolution from specific geographical reference to broader thematic statement about the hidden realities that existed beneath the surface of ordinary American communities. The final title suggesting that truth could indeed be stranger than fiction when institutional power was applied without adequate safeguards or public accountability to protect citizens from becoming unwilling participants in experiments that served political rather than humanitarian purposes. The Hawkins National Laboratory that served as the epicenter for the series' supernatural events drew its architectural and operational details from real government facilities where classified research had been conducted with minimal external oversight. The sterile corridors and security protocols and clinical detachment that characterized the fictional institution, reflecting authentic environments where scientific inquiry had been corrupted by military objectives and intelligence, priorities that treated human subjects as expendable resources. The numbered children who populated Dr. Brenner's laboratory represented amplification of documented cases where vulnerable individuals had been recruited or coerced into participating in research programs that promised medical treatment or financial compensation while concealing the true nature of experimental procedures that could cause permanent psychological and physical damage. The fictional subjects experiencing concentrated versions of abuse that had been distributed across decades of real programs affecting thousands of unwilling participants. The psychic abilities that formed the supernatural foundation of Stranger Things reflected genuine government interest in parapsychological research that had led to programs like Stargate, where intelligence agencies invested millions of dollars in attempts to develop remote viewing capabilities and psychokinetic weapons. Despite consistent failure to produce reliable results that could justify the resources devoted to such speculative endeavors, the ethical violations that characterized both fictional and historical research programs demonstrated recurring patterns of institutional behavior where classified status and national security justifications were used to circumvent normal regulatory oversight and constitutional protections. The secrecy that surrounded such activities, creating environments where abuse could flourish without the external scrutiny that might have prevented the most extreme forms of human experimentation. The children who suffered in both real MKUltra programs and fictional Hawkins Laboratory shared experiences of institutional betrayal, where adults who claimed protective authority used that trust to inflict trauma that would affect their victims throughout their entire lives. The psychological damage extending far beyond immediate physical effects to encompass fundamental disruption of their ability to form healthy relationships or maintain confidence in social institutions that were supposed to safeguard rather than exploit vulnerable populations. The congressional investigations that eventually exposed MKUltra's crimes provided models for the kind of institutional accountability that remained absent from the Stranger Things narrative, where government agencies continued operating with impunity, while their victims struggled to rebuild lives that had been shattered by programs that treated human beings as laboratory equipment, rather than individuals deserving basic dignity and protection from those who claimed authority over their welfare and future. The documents that survived official attempts to destroy MKUltra records revealed systematic destruction of evidence that paralleled the cover-up efforts depicted in Stranger Things, both fictional and historical conspiracies, demonstrating how institutions protected themselves from accountability by eliminating documentation that might expose criminal activities while using classification systems to prevent public access to information that citizens needed to evaluate their government's adherence to constitutional principles and moral standards. The legacy of MKUltra's documented atrocities provided cultural context that made Stranger Things' fictional horrors feel authentically threatening because audiences understood that governments had actually conducted similar experiments on unwilling subjects. The historical foundation, lending credibility to supernatural extensions of institutional abuse that might otherwise have seemed too extreme to be believable or emotionally engaging for viewers who lived in democratic societies. The transformation of historical trauma into entertainment required careful navigation of ethical boundaries that honored real victims while using their suffering as inspiration for fictional narratives that could illuminate broader truths about power and vulnerability. The Duffer Brothers succeeding in this balance by creating characters whose individual dignity and agency ultimately triumphed over institutional forces that sought to reduce them to instruments, serving purposes they had never chosen to support. The journey that transformed a rejected script into the most beloved supernatural series of the 21st century began with two brothers whose visions seemed too strange for an entertainment industry that preferred stories that could be easily categorized and marketed to demographic groups, whose viewing habits had been analyzed and quantified through focus groups and market research that prioritized familiarity over innovation and safe investments over creative risks that might challenge audience expectations about what television programming should deliver. Matt and Ross Duffer, armed with nothing more than childhood memories of 1980s adventure films, and a conviction that audiences were hungry for stories that blended genres in ways that reflected the complexity of real emotional experience, found themselves facing rejection after rejection as they pitched their concept to networks that seemed incapable of understanding how a single narrative could simultaneously serve adult sophistication and childhood wonder without compromising either element. The feedback they received during those dispiriting months of unsuccessful presentations revealed an industry paralyzed by demographic thinking that viewed audiences as separate and incompatible categories rather than human beings whose beings' NTs, interests, transcended artificial boundaries between age groups and genre preferences. Executives consistently asking whether Stranger Things was intended for children or adults, as though the possibility of creating content that could engage multiple generations had never occurred to people whose job was supposed to be recognizing and developing innovative entertainment. 15 different networks, possibly as many as 20, depending on which interviews are considered most reliable, turned down the opportunity to develop what would become one of the most culturally significant television series in recent memory. Their rejections based on concerns about tone and target audience that reflected fundamental misunderstanding of how effective storytelling operates when creators trust their audience's capacity to appreciate nuanced narratives that refuse to limit themselves to single emotional registers or demographic appeals. The executives who passed on Stranger Things worried that its combination of childhood adventure and adult horror would confuse viewers who had been trained to expect consistent genre experiences that never challenged their comfort zones or demanded emotional flexibility. The industry's risk-averse culture, preventing recognition that audiences might be ready for programming that honored both their nostalgic longings and their sophisticated understanding of contemporary anxieties about government, overreach, and institutional betrayal. The suggestion that the Duffer Brothers either eliminate the adult elements and create a straightforward children's show, or remove the young protagonists and focus entirely on Jim Hopper's investigation, revealed how completely the entertainment industry had compartmentalized human experience into marketable categories that bore little resemblance to the way people actually lived and felt and remembered their own complex relationships with childhood fears and adult responsibilities. The brothers' refusal to compromise their vision, despite mounting pressure to conform to industry expectations, demonstrated artistic integrity that prioritized authentic storytelling over commercial considerations. Their persistence reflecting understanding that genuine innovation required willingness to endure rejection rather than accepting modifications that might make their project more marketable but less truthful to the emotional experiences they were trying to capture and communicate. The original concept for Stranger Things as an anthology series would have followed the American Horror Story model of completely changing cast and location with each season, allowing the creators to explore different time periods and supernatural threats while maintaining thematic consistency about the hidden dangers that lurked beneath the surface of ordinary American communities. Though this approach would have prevented the deep character development that ultimately became the series' greatest strength, the decision to abandon the anthology format in favor of continuing the Hawkins story emerged from the creators' recognition that the relationships between their characters possessed emotional resonance that deserved extended exploration. The chemistry that developed among cast members during production, convincing the Duffer Brothers that their fictional community could sustain multiple seasons of storytelling without exhausting its dramatic possibilities or audience interest. Netflix's willingness to embrace Stranger Things reflected the streaming platform's strategic commitment to developing original content that could differentiate its service from traditional television networks and establish cultural credibility among viewers who were increasingly abandoning conventional broadcast programming in favor of on-demand entertainment that offered greater creative freedom and narrative sophistication than advertisers and network censors typically permitted. The streaming model that allowed entire seasons to be released simultaneously created opportunities for complex storytelling that could reward careful viewing and build audience investment through subtle details and character development that might be lost in traditional weekly broadcast schedules, where viewer attention was divided among multiple competing programs and interrupted by commercial breaks that disrupted narrative flow and emotional engagement. The casting process that ultimately assembled the perfect ensemble began with massive nationwide searches that reflected the creators' understanding that the success of their story depended entirely upon finding young actors who could convincingly portray both the innocence of childhood, friendship, and the courage required to face supernatural threats that would challenge adult characters. The auditions requiring genuine chemistry rather than simple individual talent. More than 900 boys and over 300 girls participated in auditions that used scenes from Rob Reiner's Stand By Me as testing material, the 1986 film providing perfect template for evaluating young performers' ability to convey authentic friendship and emotional depth while demonstrating courage in the face of danger. The casting directors understanding that their fictional adventure story required actors who could channel the same qualities that made Reiner's coming-of-age classic so emotionally compelling. Gaten Matarazzo's immediate acceptance following his audition reflected casting directors' recognition that his natural charisma and positive attitude perfectly embodied Dustin Henderson's optimistic spirit, while his cleidocranial dysplasia provided authentic physical characteristic that could be incorporated into the character without feeling like exploitation of disability for dramatic effect, his condition becoming source of strength rather than limitation within the fictional narrative. The decision to write Dustin's dental condition into the script rather than asking Matarazzo to conceal it demonstrated the creator's commitment to authentic representation that celebrated difference rather than demanding conformity to conventional appearance standards. The character's explanation of cleidocranial dysplasia to school bullies, providing educational opportunity that normalized genetic variation while maintaining the story's focus on friendship and acceptance. Finn Wolfhard's portrayal of Mike Wheeler required ability to serve as emotional anchor for the group while maintaining believable romantic relationship with Eleven that felt genuine rather than forced. His performance needing to convey leadership qualities without overshadowing his co-stars or making Mike seem unrealistically mature for his supposed age and experience level. Caleb McLaughlin's Lucas Sinclair demanded actor who could balance skepticism with loyalty, his character's initial distrust of Eleven requiring careful navigation to avoid making him seem unreasonably hostile while establishing legitimate concerns about the dangers that her presence brought to their small community and tight-knit friendship group. Noah Schnapp's Will Byers presented unique challenge of creating memorable character despite limited screen time in the first season, his portrayal needing to establish emotional connection with audience through brief appearances and other characters' reactions to his disappearance, the performance requiring subtle communication of sensitivity and artistic temperament that would justify his friends' desperate efforts to rescue him. Millie Bobby Brown's Eleven represented the most crucial casting decision since her character would serve as both supernatural catalyst and emotional heart of the series, her performance needing to convey complex psychological trauma while maintaining childlike vulnerability that would make audiences care about her fate, despite her dangerous abilities and mysterious background. The screen tests that evaluated potential cast combinations focused on genuine friendship chemistry rather than romantic sparks. the creators understanding that believable platonic relationships would provide foundation for all other emotional developments within their story, the bonds between characters needing to feel authentic enough that audiences would invest in their survival and happiness throughout multiple seasons. The font selection process that eventually chose ITC Benguiat involved consideration of more than 20 different options presented by Imaginary Forces. The title design studio, recognizing that typography could immediately communicate genre expectations and nostalgic associations that would prepare audiences for the specific type of storytelling experience they were about to encounter. ITC Benguiat's 1970s design history made it perfect choice for evoking specific cultural period without feeling like pastiche or ironic commentary. Its previous use on Stephen King novel covers and choose-your-own adventure books, creating immediate associations with adventure and horror that perfectly matched the series' genre-blending approach to supernatural storytelling. The decision to maintain consistent visual identity across all marketing materials and episode titles reinforced the series' commitment to authentic period detail while establishing recognizable brand that would help audiences identify and remember the show among increasingly crowded streaming content that competed for attention through increasingly sophisticated promotional campaigns and social media strategies. The development process that transformed initial rejection into eventual acceptance demonstrated how creative persistence could overcome industry resistance when artists remained committed to their vision while remaining open to constructive feedback that could improve their work without compromising its essential qualities. The Duffer Brothers' journey providing inspiration for other creators whose innovative ideas might not immediately fit conventional market categories. The success of Stranger Things' unconventional approach validated audience appetite for programming that trusted viewers' intelligence and emotional sophistication rather than pandering to perceived demographic limitations. The series proving that genre-blending narratives could attract broad audiences when executed with genuine respect for both nostalgic elements and contemporary concerns about institutional power and individual agency. The transformation from rejected concept to cultural phenomenon illustrated how the entertainment landscape was evolving to accommodate more diverse storytelling approaches, as streaming platforms sought distinctive content that could build loyal subscriber bases through quality rather than broad appeal. The success of innovative programming encouraging other creators to pursue projects that might have seemed too risky for traditional network development. The transformation of characters from their original scripted fates into beloved figures whose survival became essential to the series' emotional core reflects one of the most beautiful aspects of collaborative storytelling, where the magic that emerges from genuine human connection between actors and creators can redirect entire narrative trajectories in ways that serve the deeper truths of character development rather than the mechanical requirements of predetermined plot structures that might sacrifice authenticity. For dramatic convenience, Steve Harrington's evolution from expendable antagonist to protective guardian represents perhaps the most dramatic example of how authentic performance can reveal hidden depths within characters who were originally conceived as simple archetypes serving specific plot functions. His journey from arrogant teenager, destined for gruesome death, to beloved surrogate older brother, demonstrating how genuine chemistry between actors and writers can transform shallow stereotypes into complex human beings whose growth becomes central to the series' emotional resonance. The original script for Stranger Things' first season positioned Steve as nothing more sophisticated than a walking embodiment of 1980s movie villain tropes, his character designed to represent everything toxic about privileged adolescent masculinity, while providing audiences with someone whose eventual demise at the Demogorgon's claws would feel like justified punishment for his cruel treatment of Jonathan Byers and his dismissive attitude toward Nancy Wheeler's intelligence and moral integrity. Joe Keery's audition tape revealed qualities that existed nowhere in the written material, but emerged from his natural charisma and his instinctive understanding that even seemingly unlikable characters possessed underlying vulnerabilities and redeeming characteristics that skilled performers could illuminate through subtle choices that added depth without contradicting the surface requirements of their roles. His interpretation suggesting layers of insecurity and potential goodness that the Duffer Brothers had never considered incorporating. The decision to spare Steve from his planned death occurred during production when everyone involved recognized that Keery had created something unexpectedly compelling that deserved further exploration rather than quick elimination. His performance revealing how much more interesting the character could become if given opportunities to grow beyond his initial function as obstacle to Jonathan and Nancy's relationship, while providing comic relief through his gradual awakening to his own limitations. The writer's choice to transform Steve into the group's unofficial babysitter during the second season represented creative risk that paid enormous dividends by placing him in situations where his protective instincts could emerge naturally through his interactions with Dustin Henderson and the other younger characters. These relationships allowing him to demonstrate maturity and selflessness that would have been impossible within his original role as romantic rival and social antagonist. The partnership between Steve and Dustin that developed during their monster hunting adventures provided perfect vehicle for showcasing both characters' best qualities while creating comedic moments that felt organic rather than forced. Their unlikely friendship, demonstrating how genuine connections could transcend age differences and social categories when people shared common goals and mutual respect for each other's contributions to group efforts. Steve's hair care advice and his patient mentoring of Dustin's romantic pursuits revealed character depth that transformed him from simple comic relief into someone whose emotional investment in the younger generation's welfare made him indispensable to the series' exploration of how courage and loyalty could manifest in everyday situations rather than only during supernatural crises that demanded extraordinary heroism. Bob Newby's expansion from minor supporting character to tragic hero followed similar pattern of actor performance, exceeding creative expectations and inspiring writers to develop previously underwritten roles into opportunities for meaningful character development that served both individual story arcs and broader thematic concerns about ordinary people's capacity for extraordinary sacrifice when circumstances demanded nothing less than complete commitment to protecting others. Sean Astin's natural warmth and genuine enthusiasm for Joyce's happiness transformed what could have been thankless role as placeholder boyfriend into opportunity for exploring how authentic love could provide healing and stability for someone whose life had been marked by disappointment and struggle. Bob's relationship with Joyce demonstrating that kindness and reliability possessed their own heroic qualities that deserved recognition alongside more dramatic forms of courage. The writer's initial plan to eliminate Bob during the fourth episode would have wasted Astin's considerable talents while depriving the story of one of its most genuinely touching relationships. Joyce and Bob's romance providing viewers with example of mature adult connection based on mutual support and shared values rather than passion alone, their courtship offering hope that people could find happiness even after experiencing significant losses. The decision to extend Bob's role and give him genuinely heroic death reflected the creator's recognition that audiences had become emotionally invested in his relationship with Joyce and his paternal interactions with Will and Jonathan, his sacrifice at Hawkins' laboratory, providing climactic moment that honored both his character's essential decency and the audience's affection for someone whose goodness had been consistently demonstrated through small acts of care and understanding. Bob's improvised Goonies reference during the map deciphering scene perfectly exemplified how Astin's own personality and career history could be incorporated into character moments that felt completely natural while providing subtle entertainment for viewers who recognized the connection. His delivery of the pirate treasure line capturing exactly the kind of dorky enthusiasm that made Bob so endearing despite his lack of traditional heroic qualities. The revelation that Bob had been originally conceived as more problematic character similar to Lonnie Byers demonstrated how completely Astin's performance had redirected the writer's vision, his portrayal convincing them that Joyce deserved genuine happiness with someone who appreciated her strength and supported her children, rather than becoming involved with another man who would create additional complications for family already dealing with supernatural trauma. Max Mayfield's salvation from her planned death during the 4th season represented another instance where the creative team's affection for both character and performer overrode their original dramatic intentions. Sadie Sink's compelling portrayal of trauma and resilience, convincing the Duffer Brothers that killing Max would constitute unnecessarily cruel punishment for someone whose journey toward healing and self-acceptance had resonated deeply with audiences. The writer's original plan to make Max Vecna's permanent final victim would have provided powerful emotional climax, while demonstrating that not even the most beloved characters were safe from the supernatural forces threatening Hawkins, her death serving as ultimate sacrifice that might have galvanized the remaining characters, while providing definitive proof of Vecna's terrible power and malevolent intelligence. Sink's preparation for what she believed would be her character's definitive end reflected her professionalism and commitment to serving the story's needs, even when those needs seemed to require her departure from a role that had become central to her career and personal identity. Her willingness to embrace Max's potential death demonstrating the kind of artistic integrity that made her performance so compelling throughout the character's development. The compromise solution that allowed Max to technically die while providing mechanism for her revival through Eleven's intervention satisfied multiple dramatic requirements by giving Vecna a significant victory while preserving possibilities for future character development. The writers finding middle ground between their original tragic vision and their reluctance to permanently eliminate someone whose journey felt incomplete. Billy Hargrove's transformation from simple antagonist to complex victim required extensive collaboration between the writers and Dacre Montgomery, whose suggestions for adding psychological depth and backstory helped create one of the series' most nuanced explorations of how childhood trauma could manifest in destructive behavior that hurt others, while reflecting the Fruzes, perpetrator's own unhealed wounds and desperate need for connection. Montgomery's improvised breakdown during the sauna test scene provided raw emotional power that elevated what could have been simple horror sequence into profound examination of possession and identity. His unscripted plea for his mother, revealing vulnerability that existed beneath Billy's aggressive exterior, while demonstrating how supernatural corruption exploited existing psychological fractures. The decision to explore Billy's abusive home life through flashbacks and subtle character moments transformed him from straightforward villain into tragic figure whose cruelty toward others stemmed from his own victimization. This development allowing the series to examine cycles of violence while maintaining sympathy for characters whose actions remained inexcusable despite their traumatic origins. Montgomery's suggestion that Billy's confrontation with his stepfather be included in the narrative reflected his understanding that audiences needed to comprehend the sources of his character's anger and fear. The abusive relationship providing context that explained without excusing Billy's behavior, while setting up his eventual redemption through sacrifice that honored both his capacity for growth and his genuine love for Max. The evolution of these characters from their original scripted fates into beloved figures whose continued presence became essential to the series' emotional impact demonstrates how authentic collaborative relationships between writers and performers can elevate storytelling beyond predetermined formulas, creating opportunities for genuine surprise and discovery that honor both creative vision and human complexity in ways that purely mechanical plot development could never achieve. The magic that transformed Stranger Things from competent television into cinematic experience worthy of theatrical release emerged from the creator's commitment to practical effects and physical craftsmanship that honored the filmmaking traditions of the 1980s while refusing to rely entirely upon computer-generated imagery that might have simplified production but could never have provided the tactile authenticity that made supernatural encounters feel genuinely threatening rather than merely impressive. Displays of digital artistry. Mark Steger's heroic performance inside the original Demogorgon costume represents one of the most physically demanding and psychologically challenging acting jobs in modern television. His willingness to endure extraordinary discomfort and genuine danger in service of creating memorable monster encounters, demonstrating dedication that extended far beyond normal professional requirements into realm of artistic sacrifice that elevated every scene through authentic physical presence that computer animation could never replicate. The creature suit that transformed Steger into the series' first interdimensional predator was engineered as a complex piece of wearable sculpture that combined traditional costume construction with sophisticated animatronics and remote-controlled mechanisms. The practical requirements of making this elaborate disguise functional for extended filming sessions, creating technical challenges that pushed prop-making craftsmanship to limits that few television productions would have attempted, given available alternatives. The physical toll that wearing the Demogorgon costume imposed upon its human occupant reflected genuine commitment to practical filmmaking that prioritized authentic performance over actor comfort. Steger's ability to remain inside the suit, limited to 20 to 25-minute intervals before heat exhaustion and dehydration forced breaks, that disrupted filming schedules, but ensured that his portrayal maintained energy and precision that might have deteriorated during longer, continuous sessions. The stilts that provided the Demogorgon with unnaturally elongated proportions created additional layers of difficulty for Steger's performance. His ability to move convincingly, while elevated on mechanical extensions requiring balance and coordination that would have challenged experienced stunt performers under normal circumstances, let alone someone attempting to navigate complex choreography while wearing restrictive costume that limited vision and mobility through multiple physical impediments. The animatronic head that gave the Demogorgon its signature petal-opening mouth was controlled through remote operation rather than internal mechanisms that Steger could manipulate directly. This separation between performer and puppet, requiring coordination with external technicians who had to time mechanical movements to match his physical performance while maintaining creatures' threatening presence throughout scenes, that demanded precise synchronization between multiple technical elements. The restricted visibility that resulted from the costume's design forced Steger to navigate sets and interact with other actors, primarily through hearing and spatial memory. His ability to deliver convincing menace while essentially performing blind, demonstrating remarkable professional skill that transformed severe practical limitations into opportunities for creating unsettling creature behavior that felt authentically otherworldly rather than obviously human. The weight of the complete Demogorgon apparatus created additional endurance challenges that affected every aspect of Steger's performance. The accumulated mass of costume components and mechanical systems requiring physical strength that went beyond normal acting demands into realm of athletic performance that had to be sustained while maintaining character consistency throughout multiple takes and extended filming sessions. The van flip sequence that provided one of the first season's most memorable action moments was accomplished through practical stunt work that used nitrogen-powered cannons rather than digital effects. The decision to flip an actual vehicle, demonstrating commitment to physical spectacle that created genuine surprise for actors whose reactions were captured during real-time events, rather than staged responses to imaginary occurrences that would be added through post-production manipulation. The nitrogen cannon system that launched the van into its dramatic aerial rotation fired high-density plastic projectiles from concealed positions beneath the vehicle. The precisely calculated force and trajectory required to achieve convincing flip while ensuring safety for nearby performers, demanding engineering expertise that combined pyrotechnical knowledge with stunt coordination and mathematical precision to create spectacular practical effect that enhanced rather than replaced human performance. The salt tank that allowed Millie Bobby Brown to actually float during Eleven's sensory deprivation experiences required more than 1,200 pounds of dissolved salt to achieve proper buoyancy, the massive quantity of sodium chloride creating dense solution that could support human body weight while maintaining water temperature and clarity necessary for filming underwater sequences that demanded genuine submersion rather than shallow water simulation. Brown's actual floating in the makeshift isolation tank provided authentic physical experience that informed her performance in ways that green screen alternatives could never have achieved. Her genuine reactions to weightlessness and sensory restriction, creating subtle behavioral details that contributed to Eleven's otherworldly presence, while demonstrating production's commitment to actor preparation that prioritized emotional authenticity over technical convenience. Jamie Campbell Bower's transformation into Vecna required daily makeup sessions that lasted between 5 and 9 hours. His willingness to endure this grueling preparation process, reflecting dedication to character creation that extended far beyond normal cosmetic requirements into realm of endurance testing that challenged both physical comfort and psychological resilience throughout months of production that demanded consistent commitment to elaborate disguise. The prosthetic application process that created Vecna's distinctive appearance involved multiple layers of foam latex pieces and intricate paintwork that had to be precisely applied and maintained throughout filming days that could extend 12 hours or longer. The makeup team's expertise ensuring that complex character design remained consistent and convincing, despite physical demands of performance that included extensive dialogue delivery and complex choreographed movements. Bower's ability to deliver compelling performance while wearing elaborate prosthetics that restricted facial mobility and altered his voice demonstrated remarkable adaptability and professional skill, his portrayal maintaining character's menacing intelligence while working within severe physical limitations that would have defeated less committed performers who lacked experience with extreme character transformation requirements. The decision to create Vecna through practical makeup rather than digital replacement allowed other actors to interact with genuine physical presence during filming. Their authentic reactions to Bower's transformed appearance providing emotional reality that enhanced supernatural horror through genuine human responses to disturbing visual stimuli rather than imagined reactions to empty space that would later contain computer-generated imagery. David Harbour's wielding of the authentic Atlantean sword from Conan the Barbarian represented perfect marriage of practical prop work and cultural reference that honored both the series' 1980s inspiration and the specific film history that influenced its creators' aesthetic vision. The use of genuine movie memorabilia, adding layers of meaning for viewers who recognized the weapon, while providing Harbour with authentic weight and balance that informed his physical performance. The sword's Hollywood pedigree created additional excitement for cast and crew members who understood the significance of handling prop that had been used by Arnold Schwarzenegger during iconic action sequences. This connection to film history, adding enthusiasm to production atmosphere, while demonstrating creators' commitment to authentic period references that extended beyond surface nostalgia into genuine appreciation for craft traditions that shaped 80s entertainment. Harbour's reported delight in using the historic weapon reflected actors' genuine appreciation for practical props that enhanced rather than hindered performance. His physical interaction with authentic movie sword, providing tactile connection to film history, while requiring genuine sword handling technique that created more convincing action sequences than lightweight replica props could have. Supported the animatronic creatures and mechanical effects that populated various scenes throughout the series required teams of skilled technicians whose expertise in traditional special effects craftsmanship created practical alternatives to digital solutions. Their work, ensuring that actors had genuine physical elements to interact with during filming, while providing directors with immediate visual feedback about how completed sequences would appear, rather than relying entirely upon post-production visualization. The combination of practical effects with selective digital enhancement created a hybrid approach that maximized strengths of both traditional and modern techniques. Computer graphics being used to clean up practical work and add impossible elements, rather than replacing human craftsmanship entirely. This balance ensuring that supernatural elements maintained physical believability while achieving visual spectacle that pure practical work might not have accomplished within production budgets. The legacy of Stranger Things' practical effects work has influenced other productions to reconsider their reliance upon digital solutions, the series demonstrating that audiences respond positively to authentic physical elements, even when perfect computer graphics might be technically superior. The tactile reality of practical work, creating emotional connections that purely digital experiences often fail to achieve, despite superior visual precision and unlimited creative possibilities. The craftsmanship that created these memorable practical effects represents continuation of filmmaking traditions that honor human skill and creative problem-solving. The technicians and performers who brought these sequences to life, demonstrating that physical artistry remains relevant and valuable even in digital age. Their work providing foundation for supernatural storytelling that feels grounded in authentic human experience, rather than disconnected from physical reality. The cultural phenomenon that emerged from Stranger Things' carefully curated soundtrack transformed the series from television entertainment into nostalgic time machine that transported audiences directly into the emotional landscape of the 1980s, while simultaneously introducing younger generations to musical treasures they might never have discovered through conventional radio programming or streaming algorithm recommendations that prioritize contemporary hits over historical deep cuts that require cultural context to appreciate fully. Kate Bush's Running Up That Hill experienced resurrection that defied every conventional understanding of how popular music charts function in the digital age. The song's prominence during Max Mayfield's climactic confrontation with Vecna, launching a 37-year-old track to #1 positions on charts worldwide, while introducing Bush's distinctive artistic vision to listeners who had been born decades after the song's original release during the summer of 1985. The original chart performance of Running Up That Hill had peaked at number 30 during its initial release, a respectable showing that reflected Bush's established fan base, but hardly suggested the kind of universal appeal that would eventually make the song one of the most recognizable pieces of music from the entire decade. Its transformation from cult favorite into global phenomenon, demonstrating how effective dramatic placement could reveal hidden emotional depths within existing artistic works. The decision to feature Bush's haunting meditation on human connection and empathy as Max's lifeline back from Vecna's psychological prison created perfect synthesis between lyrical content and narrative function. The song's exploration of desire to understand and share another person's experience, providing thematic resonance that enhanced, rather than merely accompanied, the supernatural rescue sequence that would determine the character's survival. Bush's own reaction to her song's unexpected revival reflected genuine surprise and gratitude that her artistic vision had found new audiences through its association with Stranger Things. Her statements about the experience demonstrating how collaborative relationships between different creative mediums could breathe fresh life into established works while honoring their original artistic intentions rather than exploiting them for superficial nostalgic purposes. The global streaming numbers that Running Up That Hill achieved following the 4th season's release exceeded the combined totals from its entire previous chart history. Millions of listeners discovering or rediscovering Bush's unique approach to pop music construction, while contributing to sales figures that provided financial windfall for an artist whose experimental tendencies had sometimes limited her commercial reach during earlier decades. The phenomenon extended beyond simple chart success into broader cultural conversation about the power of properly contextualized music to create emotional experiences that transcended generational boundaries. Younger listeners embracing Bush's sophisticated artistic vision, while older audiences rediscovered why they had originally connected with her work during their own formative years when the song first appeared on radio playlists. Joseph Quinn's dedication to mastering Eddie Munson's guitar performance reflected the series' commitment to authentic musical representation that honored both the technical demands of heavy metal performance and the cultural significance of music as expression of individual identity and community belonging. His intensive practice sessions, transforming acting challenge into genuine musical education that enhanced his portrayal's credibility. The creator's request for Quinn to learn guitar specifically for his role demonstrated their understanding that convincing musical performance required more than simple lip-syncing or finger positioning. The physical demands of actually playing instruments, providing body language and muscle memory that could never be replicated through superficial mimicry or post-production manipulation of hand movements. Quinn's immediate response to the guitar challenge involved purchasing an instrument and beginning lessons with professional instructors. His commitment to developing genuine musical skills, reflecting dedication that extended beyond minimum professional requirements into realm of artistic integrity that prioritized authentic performance over convenient shortcuts that might have saved time while compromising believability. The Master of Puppets sequence that provided the 4th season's most memorable musical moment required Quinn to perform Metallica's complex composition while maintaining character consistency and dramatic tension the technical demands of executing intricate heavy metal guitar work while delivering convincing acting performance, representing synthesis of musical and dramatic skills that few actors would have attempted. The cultural impact of Eddie's guitar solo extended far beyond the immediate dramatic context to inspire countless amateur musicians to attempt their own versions of the song. Online platforms filling with tribute performances that demonstrated how effective musical moments in popular entertainment could motivate audiences to engage actively with artistic forms rather than remaining passive consumers of prepackaged content. Metallica's enthusiastic endorsement of their song's use in Stranger Things reflected established artists' recognition that effective dramatic placement could introduce their work to new generations while honoring the Stranger Things is reflected established artists' recognition. Original artistic vision that had made the music culturally significant, the band's positive response encouraging other musicians to consider how their catalogue might be enhanced through thoughtful integration with contemporary entertainment. The series' broader musical curation extended far beyond individual song selections to encompass comprehensive recreation of 1980s sonic environment. Every radio broadcast and background track and incidental musical reference, contributing to immersive period atmosphere that transported viewers into authentic cultural moment, rather than simplified nostalgia that reduced complex historical period to collection of recognizable hits. The meticulous attention to period-appropriate musical details included research into regional radio programming and local music scenes that would have influenced characters' listening habits. The creators' understanding that authentic cultural recreation required knowledge of how music actually functioned in specific geographic and social contexts, rather than relying upon generalized assumptions about decade-wide musical preferences. The influence of films like The Thing and Ghostbusters on the series' aesthetic choices created musical connections that extended beyond soundtrack selections into realm of cultural reference and shared experience. The way that characters discussed and reacted to popular entertainment, providing insights into their personalities, while establishing common ground with audiences who shared similar cultural touchstones from their own childhood experiences. The incorporation of Dungeons & Dragons culture included attention to the musical preferences that often accompanied tabletop gaming sessions, heavy metal and progressive rock, providing appropriate atmosphere for fantasy adventures, while reflecting the subcultural identity that connected participants in activities that mainstream society often dismissed as juvenile or antisocial. Despite their sophisticated creative and collaborative requirements, the balance between recognizable hits and lesser-known period tracks created musical landscape that felt authentic to people who had actually lived through the 1980s, while providing educational opportunities for younger viewers to discover music they might not encounter through contemporary media channels that prioritized recent releases over historical catalog material. The Eggo waffle phenomenon that emerged from Eleven's innocent enjoyment of frozen breakfast treats demonstrated how effective product placement could occur organically through character development rather than forced commercial integration. The character's genuine delight in simple pleasures, creating marketing impact that exceeded anything that paid advertising could have achieved through traditional promotional strategies. Kellogg's initial confusion about their sales figures reflected corporate inability to anticipate how fictional character preferences could influence real-world consumer behavior. The company's subsequent embrace of the connection through Super Bowl advertising, demonstrating how responsive marketing could capitalize on unexpected cultural phenomena while honoring the original context that had made the product association meaningful. The 15% worldwide increase in Eggo sales following the first season's premiere provided quantifiable evidence of Stranger Things' cultural reach, while demonstrating how authentic storytelling could create emotional connections between audiences and everyday objects that gained symbolic significance through their association with beloved characters and memorable dramatic moments. The transformation of ordinary frozen waffles into cultural artifacts reflected broader pattern of how effective entertainment could invest mundane objects with special meaning. Audiences seeking to recreate emotional experiences from fictional narratives through consumption of products that had gained significance through their role in stories that had touched viewers' lives in meaningful ways. The authenticity of Eleven's waffle obsession emerged from the Duffer Brothers' own childhood memories rather than calculated product placement strategies. Their personal connection to the breakfast food, creating genuine emotional foundation for character detail that resonated with audiences because it reflected real human experience rather than artificial marketing construction designed to promote commercial products. The series' influence on fashion trends and lifestyle choices extended the musical and culinary impacts into comprehensive cultural revival that affected everything from clothing styles to recreational activities. Audiences, embracing not just individual elements from the show but entire aesthetic and lifestyle approaches that the series had presented as authentic expressions of 1980s American youth culture. The Silent Hill video game series' visual influence on the Upside Down's distinctive appearance created cross-medium artistic dialogue between different entertainment forms. The horror game's atmospheric design principles, providing foundation for television visual effects that honored both gaming culture and filmmaking traditions, while creating something new that synthesized multiple artistic influences. The success of Stranger Things' musical curation encouraged other productions to invest more thoughtfully in period-appropriate soundtrack work. The series demonstrating that audiences responded positively to authentic musical environments that enhanced rather than distracted from dramatic content, while providing additional layers of cultural meaning that enriched overall viewing experience through careful attention to sonic authenticity. The dedication that transformed talented young performers into convincing embodiments of their fictional characters required forms of commitment that extended far beyond memorizing dialogue and hitting choreographed marks. Their willingness to embrace uncomfortable experiences and emotionally challenging situations in service of authentic storytelling, demonstrating artistic integrity that elevated television production into realm of genuine collaborative artistry where personal sacrifice enhanced collective achievement. Millie Bobby Brown's decision to experience Hopper's farewell letter for the first time during actual filming created raw emotional authenticity that could never have been replicated through multiple rehearsal readings or carefully planned emotional preparation. Her insistence on preserving genuine surprise and spontaneous reaction, reflecting understanding that some dramatic moments required real vulnerability rather than performed approximation of feelings that might ring false to audiences who could distinguish between authentic and manufactured emotion. The tears that flowed down Brown's face as she absorbed Hopper's words represented genuine grief and loss rather than technical acting exercise. Her commitment to experiencing the character's pain without protective emotional distance, demonstrating courage that went beyond professional requirements into realm of personal risk, where actors opened themselves to real psychological impact in service of creating truthful, dramatic moments that honored both fictional relationships and audience investment. The decision to withhold the letter's contents until cameras rolled required trust between Brown and the production team, who understood that authentic emotional responses could not be guaranteed or controlled once genuine surprise was introduced into performance equation. Her faith in their guidance allowing creation of spontaneous moment that became one of the series' most emotionally resonant scenes through commitment to process rather than predetermined result. The preparation that Brown undertook for this crucial scene involved emotional readiness rather than specific character work. Her understanding that genuine surprise required psychological flexibility and willingness to be affected by unexpected content, demonstrating maturity that enabled her to handle complex emotional material while maintaining professional composure necessary for successful completion of demanding filming requirements. David Harbour's method acting approach to Hopper's character transformation involved deliberate lifestyle changes that aligned his physical condition and psychological state with the broken man he was portraying. His commitment to authentic character embodiment, extending beyond costume and makeup into realm of temporary identity, adoption that informed every aspect of his performance through lived experience rather than external observation of human behavior patterns. The dietary choices that Harbour made to achieve Hopper's physical appearance included consuming quantities of donuts and adopting sedentary habits that reflected his character's depression and self-neglect. These changes requiring genuine sacrifice of personal health and fitness goals in service of believable portrayal that could not have been achieved through prosthetic enhancement or digital manipulation alone. The emotional distance that Harbour maintained from the young cast members during early filming served his portrayal of Hopper's initial suspicion and professional detachment, while creating authentic tension that enhanced scenes requiring conflict between his character and the children whose welfare he would eventually prioritize above his own safety. This deliberate social strategy, demonstrating sophisticated understanding of how real relationships could serve fictional requirements. The intimidating presence that Harbour cultivated through calculated aloofness provided genuine foundation for scenes where Hopper's authority and skepticism needed to feel threatening rather than protective. The adult actor's ability to modulate his natural warmth and accessibility, creating performance layers that evolved organically as his character developed deeper connections with the young people whose lives became intertwined with his own healing journey. Harbour's emotional reaction to watching his own performance during Hopper's rescue of Will demonstrated complete identification with his character that transcended normal actor role boundaries. His tears while viewing the completed sequence reflecting psychological investment that transformed professional obligation into personal experience, where fictional events carried genuine emotional weight that affected him as deeply as real-life encounters. The authenticity of Harbour's response to his own acting provided validation of method approach that prioritized emotional truth over technical precision, his ability to be moved by his own portrayal, suggesting complete integration of actor and character that eliminated self-consciousness and analytical distance that might have prevented total commitment to fictional relationship and dramatic circumstances. Gaten Matarazzo's cleidocranial dysplasia created unique opportunity for authentic representation that celebrated rather than concealed genetic difference, his openness about his condition during audition process, providing writers with genuine characteristic that could be incorporated into Dustin's identity without exploitation or superficial treatment of medical realities that affected millions of people who deserved respectful portrayal in popular entertainment. The decision to write Dustin's condition into the script, rather than asking Matarazzo to hide his distinctive smile, demonstrated production commitment to inclusive casting that valued authentic human diversity over conventional appearance standards. The character's explanation of cleidocranial dysplasia to school bullies providing educational opportunity that normalized genetic variation while maintaining story, focus on friendship and acceptance rather than medical drama or inspirational messaging. Matarazzo's natural enthusiasm and positive attitude transformed what could have been token representation into genuine character development that made Dustin's optimism and scientific curiosity feel authentic rather than compensatory, his performance demonstrating how actors with differences could contribute unique perspectives and experiences that enrich storytelling through lived understanding, rather than researched approximation of conditions they had never personally experienced. The integration of Matarazzo's real characteristics into fictional personality created seamless blend of authenticity and imagination that honored both actors' individual identity and characters' narrative requirements. Dustin's confidence and humor, reflecting genuine self-acceptance that provided positive example for viewers who might be struggling with their own differences or facing social pressure to conform to narrow definitions of normal appearance. The Mad Max imagery that convinced Brown to shave her head for Eleven's distinctive appearance demonstrated how visual references could inspire young performers to embrace radical physical transformations that served character requirements while building confidence through association with powerful female figures who had challenged conventional beauty standards through strength and determination rather than traditional feminine attractiveness. Charlize Theron's portrayal of Imperator Furiosa provided perfect template for empowering female character whose physical appearance supported rather than undermined her agency and capabilities. The comparison helping Brown understand how distinctive looks could enhance rather than limit opportunities for memorable performance that prioritized character development over superficial aesthetic considerations. The courage required for young actress to eliminate her hair reflected commitment to character authenticity that exceeded normal professional expectations. Brown's willingness to sacrifice conventional feminine appearance for role requirements, demonstrating artistic dedication that prioritized storytelling integrity over personal vanity or career concerns about public image, marketability. The iconic status that Brown's shaved head achieved within popular culture validated her sacrifice while establishing visual signature that became inseparable from Eleven's identity. The distinctive appearance contributing to character recognition and emotional impact that conventional hairstyles could never have provided, given the role's requirements for otherworldly presence and institutional victimization. Dacre Montgomery's fitness modification for Billy Hargrove reflected production attention to period-appropriate physical standards that prioritized historical accuracy over contemporary aesthetic preferences. His willingness to adjust his impressive physique to match realistic expectations for 1980s teenagers demonstrating commitment to authentic character embodiment that extended beyond dialogue delivery into physical presence and believability. The feedback that Montgomery was too shredded for his character reflected research into actual fitness culture and body standards that existed during the series' historical setting. The production team, understanding that excessive muscular development would have been unusual for high school students during period when bodybuilding remained specialized activity rather than mainstream fitness pursuit accessible to typical teenagers. Montgomery's professional acceptance of physical adjustment requirements demonstrated flexibility that prioritized ensemble authenticity over individual showcase opportunities. His understanding that character believability required conformity to historical context rather than display of personal achievement, reflecting mature approach to collaborative storytelling that served collective vision rather than individual ego. Noah Schnapp's mother's terrified reaction to the realistic Will Corpse prop provided memorable example of practical effects convincing quality while demonstrating production team's occasional mischievous humor, the elaborate prank requiring significant preparation and timing, while creating genuine shock that validated makeup and prop departments, exceptional craftsmanship in creating disturbingly lifelike artificial remains. The realism of the fake corpse that provoked such strong reaction reflected production investment in authentic visual effects that could convince not only audiences, but also people with intimate knowledge of the real person being represented. The prop's effectiveness as practical joke, confirming its suitability for dramatic purposes, where believable death imagery was required for narrative impact. The underwater filming sequences that required Brown to wear 70-pound diving equipment demonstrated production commitment to authentic physical experiences that informed performance while creating genuine challenge that actors had to overcome through technical skill and psychological preparation. The weight and restriction of actual diving gear providing realistic foundation for scenes requiring submersion and breath control. The Sea-Trek helmet system that allowed Brown to breathe while fully submerged provided practical solution for extended underwater filming that maintained safety while achieving visual authenticity. The specialized equipment enabling complex underwater choreography and dialogue delivery that would have been impossible through digital recreation or shallow water simulation techniques. The physical demands of underwater performance required Brown to develop genuine diving skills and breath management techniques that enhanced her portrayal while ensuring production safety. Her mastery of challenging technical requirements demonstrating versatility that extended acting abilities into realm of specialized performance skills that few child actors would have been asked or able to develop. The collective dedication that all these performers brought to their roles created ensemble authenticity that elevated individual achievements into collaborative masterpiece. Their shared commitment to truth and emotional honesty, establishing foundation for supernatural storytelling that remained grounded in recognizable human experience despite its fantastical elements and impossible circumstances. The intricate tapestry of hidden details and carefully planted references that enriches every frame of Stranger Things reflects the creator's understanding that audiences reward careful attention with deeper appreciation. The series' commitment to authentic period recreation and meaningful symbolic content, creating viewing experience that reveals new layers of significance with each subsequent encounter, while honoring both casual viewers seeking entertainment and dedicated fans pursuing comprehensive understanding of fictional universe. The secret knock that Jim Hopper shares with Eleven at their cabin hideaway contains coded message that transforms simple security precaution into profound expression of grief and love. The rhythmic pattern that sounds like arbitrary safety measure actually spelling out Sarah in Morse code, his deceased daughter's name becoming invisible thread, connecting his past tragedy to his present hope for redemption through protective relationship with another vulnerable child. The Morse code sequence that creates this hidden communication reflects Hopper's military background while demonstrating how private rituals can preserve sacred memories within everyday interactions. His choice to embed Sarah's name in routine greeting, ensuring that his lost daughter remains present in his daily life, even when circumstances prevent open acknowledgement of continuing grief that shapes every aspect of his emotional Beifeng relationships. The beauty of this concealed tribute lies in its complete integration with narrative requirements, the knock serving practical story function as security protocol, while simultaneously carrying psychological weight that reveals character depth without requiring exposition or dramatic revelation. Audiences who recognize the pattern gaining additional insight into Hopper's internal landscape, while those who miss the reference still understand the scene's surface meaning. The 30-page document that details the Upside Down's comprehensive mythology demonstrates creators' commitment to world building that extends far beyond immediate storytelling requirements. Their investment in developing complete alternate dimension history, providing foundation for consistent internal logic while creating reservoir of potential narrative material that could sustain multiple seasons of exploration without exhausting creative possibilities. The extensive lore development that remains hidden from audiences serves writers' need for authentic fictional universe that operates according to established rules rather than convenient plot devices. The detailed background information ensuring that supernatural events feel inevitable rather than arbitrary, while providing creative team with reference material that maintains consistency across multiple writers and directors working on différents épisodes. The unexplored aspects of Upside Down mythology that exist within this documentation suggest narrative possibilities that extend series potential beyond current storylines. The creator's investment in comprehensive world building, creating opportunities for spin-offs and expanded universe content, while ensuring that existing narrative threads could be resolved without contradicting established supernatural mechanics. 11's simple numerical tattoo carries profound symbolic weight that transforms identifying Mark into commentary on dehumanization and institutional abuse. The 011, branded on her wrist, representing systematic reduction of human identity to data point, while simultaneously providing audiences with immediate understanding of her status as experimental subject rather than valued individual deserving basic dignity and protection. The progression from numerical designation to chosen name reflects central theme of identity reclamation that drives 11's character development throughout series. Her journey from 011 to L to Jane Hopper, charting evolution from institutional property to autonomous person capable of forming authentic relationships based on love rather than utility or experimental value. The tattoo's permanent visibility serves constant reminder of institutional trauma, while creating opportunities for other characters to understand her history without requiring lengthy exposition. The simple marking communicating complex backstory, while establishing visual symbol that connects her experience to real-world examples of systematic dehumanization that audiences might recognize from historical contexts. The authenticity of Dungeons & Dragons references throughout series reflects creators' genuine appreciation for tabletop gaming culture rather than superficial appropriation of recognizable imagery. Their use of actual 1980s rulebooks and adventure modules, providing accurate representation of hobby that had significant cultural impact, despite mainstream dismissal as juvenile or antisocial activity. The specific modules that appear in various scenes correspond to actual published materials that were available during series time period. This attention to historical accuracy demonstrating respect for gaming community, while providing authentic details that reward viewers with specialized knowledge without alienating audiences who lack familiarity with role-playing game traditions. The integration of game mechanics and mythology into supernatural plot elements creates seamless blend of fantasy, gaming culture, and horror storytelling. The characters' familiarity with monster classifications and adventure scenarios, providing them with conceptual framework for understanding and responding to real supernatural threats that mirror their recreational experiences. The Demogorgon's name selection reflects natural tendency of imaginative children to apply familiar terminology to unfamiliar experiences, their choice to reference game monster, demonstrating how popular culture provides vocabulary for processing events that exist outside normal experience, while creating immediate audience understanding of creatures' threatening nature and capabilities. The Silent Hill video game series' influence on series' aesthetic choices represents cross-medium artistic dialogue that honors interactive entertainment while adapting its visual language for television storytelling. The horror game's atmospheric design principles providing foundation for Upside Down's distinctive appearance while creating cultural bridge between different entertainment formats. The reference to Alessa Gillespie that appears in Hopper's dialogue connects Eleven's experience to video game character whose background shares striking similarities with Laboratory Child's traumatic history, both figures representing innocent victims of adult conspiracies who developed supernatural abilities through institutional abuse that transformed them into weapons rather than protecting their fundamental humanity. The parallel between Eleven and Alessa extends beyond surface similarities to encompass deeper themes about childhood trauma and supernatural consequences, both characters demonstrating how systematic abuse could create individuals whose powers reflected their psychological wounds, while challenging audiences to consider institutional responsibility for creating dangers that threatened entire communities. The E.T. homage sequences that feature bicycle chases and government pursuit scenarios pay tribute to Steven Spielberg's masterpiece, while adapting its core dramatic elements for contemporary supernatural thriller. The conscious parallelism, honoring influential film, while creating new variations on familiar themes about childhood friendship and protection of vulnerable beings from hostile authority figures. The bicycle scenes that echo E.T.'s most memorable sequences demonstrate how effective visual quotation could enhance rather than diminish original storytelling, audiences recognizing familiar imagery while experiencing fresh narrative context that transformed nostalgic reference into genuine dramatic development rather than simple cultural citation. The government agents who pursue both E.T. and Eleven represent similar threats to childhood innocence and wonder. Their clinical approach to extraordinary phenomena, reducing magical experiences to national security concerns, while forcing young protagonists to choose between adult authority and moral obligation to protect beings who depend upon their assistance for survival. The Stephen King influences that permeate series DNA extend beyond surface horror elements to encompass deeper exploration of small-town secrets and supernatural consequences of human moral failures. The author's approach to combining realistic character development with fantastical plot elements providing template for balancing authentic relationships with extraordinary circumstances. The Carrie connections that inform Eleven's character development reflect King's interest in telekinetic abilities as metaphor for adolescent alienation and institutional oppression, both characters demonstrating how supernatural powers could emerge from traumatic circumstances, while creating individuals whose extraordinary abilities made them simultaneously powerful and vulnerable to exploitation by adults who viewed them as resources rather than people. The Firestarter parallels that shape laboratory backstory draw upon King's exploration of government experimentation and family destruction, the novel's treatment of psychic children as weapons development, providing direct inspiration for Hawkins' lab storylines, while demonstrating how institutional abuse could create individuals whose abilities posed threats to the systems that had created them. The choose-your-own-adventure book aesthetic that influences title design and marketing materials reflects creators' understanding that interactive fiction represented significant cultural touchstone for their target demographic. The visual references to these popular books, creating immediate nostalgic recognition, while suggesting narrative possibilities and audience agency that enhanced viewing experience. The ITC Benguiat font selection that creates series' distinctive logo connects visual identity to broader cultural context of 1970s and 80s design. The typeface's previous use on horror novel covers and adventure book titles, creating immediate genre associations while establishing visual continuity with period-appropriate graphic design traditions that informed series' overall aesthetic approach. The attention to authentic period typography extends beyond simple nostalgia into realm of cultural archaeology that recreates specific historical moment through accumulated visual details, the font choice contributing to comprehensive period recreation that transported audiences into authentic 1980s environment rather than simplified contemporary interpretation of decades' distinctive visual characteristics. The accumulated effect of these hidden references and authentic details creates viewing experience that rewards both casual attention and obsessive analysis. The series functioning effectively as surface entertainment while providing deeper satisfaction for audiences who invest time in discovering underlying patterns and connections that transform individual episodes into comprehensive, fictional universe deserving extended exploration and appreciation. The creator's commitment to meaningful detail over superficial reference demonstrates respect for audience intelligence while establishing creative approach that prioritized authentic world building over convenient shortcuts. Their investment in comprehensive fictional universe, creating foundation for storytelling that could sustain multiple seasons while maintaining internal consistency and emotional authenticity that honored both nostalgic elements and contemporary dramatic requirements. The transformation from struggling unknown performers earning modest television wages to globally recognized stars commanding million-dollar salaries reflects the unprecedented success that elevated Stranger Things from experimental, streaming content into cultural phenomenon, capable of generating revenue streams that rivaled major motion picture franchises. The young actors' financial journey, paralleling their characters' evolution from ordinary children into heroes whose adventures would captivate audiences across multiple continents and demographic categories. The initial compensation that the child actors received during the first season reflected industry standards for unknown performers working on speculative streaming content, their salaries ranging between $20,000 and $30,000 per episode, representing respectable entry-level wages that acknowledge their inexperience while providing fair compensation for work that required significant time commitment and emotional investment without guaranteeing future employment or career advancement. The modest paychecks that accompanied their breakthrough performances demonstrated Netflix's cautious approach to original content investment. During period when streaming platforms were still establishing credibility within entertainment industry that remained skeptical about non-traditional distribution methods and uncertain about audience appetite for programming that existed outside conventional broadcast television frameworks that had governed popular entertainment for decades. The negotiation process that followed the first season's unexpected success created unprecedented situation where child performers possessed leverage typically reserved for established stars, their central roles in cultural phenomenon providing bargaining power that enabled representation to demand compensation increases that reflected their contribution to property whose value had exceeded all initial projections and market expectations. The salary negotiations that occurred between seasons demonstrated how quickly entertainment economics could shift when content achieved global popularity. The young actors' representatives understanding that their clients' unique position as irreplaceable elements within successful franchise created opportunities for financial advancement that might never again be available given the unpredictable nature of popular entertainment and audience preferences. The second season's salary adjustments reflected recognition that these young performers had become valuable intellectual property whose continued participation was essential for maintaining audience investment and ensuring continued success of expanding franchise. Their increased compensation, acknowledging both their proven performance abilities and their status as recognizable personalities, whose public appearances and promotional activities contributed significantly to marketing efforts. The third season negotiations occurred within context of established global success that had transformed Stranger Things into Netflix's flagship original series, the platform's willingness to invest substantially in talent retention, reflecting understanding that losing key cast members could jeopardize property, whose international popularity provided competitive advantage within increasingly crowded streaming marketplace where original content served as primary differentiator between competing services. The fourth season's salary increases recognized that these young actors had matured into accomplished performers whose dramatic abilities had been thoroughly proven through multiple seasons of challenging material, their compensation reflecting not only their commercial value, but also their artistic contributions to series that had earned critical acclaim alongside popular success, while launching careers that extended beyond their original television roles. The final season compensation packages that reportedly provided each young cast member with over $7 million for their concluding performances represented complete transformation from their original financial circumstances, these extraordinary paychecks reflecting both their established star power and the series' proven ability to generate revenue through multiple channels, including streaming subscriptions, merchandise sales, and international licensing agreements. The astronomical figures that surrounded final season negotiations demonstrated how successful streaming content could create wealth comparable to major motion picture projects. The individual episode rates and overall season payments, rivaling compensation typically associated with A-list movie stars, while reflecting entertainment industry's evolving understanding of streaming platform economics and base and AS global audience reach. Winona Ryder's compensation for her role as Joyce Byers reflected her status as established Hollywood star whose participation provided immediate credibility for experimental streaming series, her salary negotiations acknowledging both her proven box office appeal and her willingness to embrace television work during a period when movie stars rarely considered small screen projects worthy of their professional attention and career focus. The $9.5 million that Ryder reportedly earned for the final season represented recognition of her essential contribution to series' success, while acknowledging her position as veteran performer whose dramatic skills anchored emotional core of supernatural storyline. Her compensation, reflecting both star power and artistic value within ensemble cast that depended upon her maternal warmth and fierce determination for emotional authenticity. David Harbour's similar compensation level acknowledged his transformation from character actor to leading man through his portrayal of Jim Hopper, his salary, reflecting both his increased star power and his central role within series mythology that positioned his character as protective father figure, whose personal journey paralleled broader themes about healing and redemption that gave supernatural adventure its emotional foundation. The Screen Actors Guild Award recognition that celebrated the entire ensemble's collective achievement provided industry validation that transcended individual salary negotiations. The peer recognition, acknowledging collaborative chemistry that had created believable fictional community whose relationships felt authentic despite supernatural circumstances that might have overwhelmed less skilled performers working without comparable mutual support and shared commitment. Ryder's emotional acceptance speech that became internet sensation demonstrated genuine appreciation for opportunity to participate in project that had revitalized her career while introducing her work to new generation of fans who might never have discovered her earlier performances without Stranger Things connection. Her visible excitement reflecting authentic gratitude that resonated with audiences who appreciated her vulnerability and enthusiasm. The SAG Award victory that honored outstanding ensemble performance validated casting choices that had prioritized chemistry over individual star power. The recognition, acknowledging collaborative achievement that could not have been accomplished through individual excellence alone, but required genuine relationships between performers whose on-screen bonds reflected authentic, off-screen friendships and mutual respect. The economic impact that extended beyond direct salary payments included merchandising opportunities and promotional appearances that provided additional income streams for cast members whose recognizable faces and character associations created marketing value that entertainment companies could monetize through product endorsements and licensing agreements that generated revenue long after filming concluded. The global merchandise sales that featured character likenesses and memorable quotes created ongoing royalty streams that supplemented direct acting compensation. The young performers benefiting from their association with cultural phenomenon whose commercial reach extended into fashion, toys, games, and countless other product categories that capitalized on series' popularity while providing additional financial rewards for original creative participants. The convention appearances and promotional events that became regular income sources for cast members demonstrated how successful television could create celebrity status that translated into lucrative personal appearance fees. The actors' ability to command substantial sums for fan conventions and corporate events, reflecting their transformation from unknown performers into recognizable personalities whose presence could attract audiences and generate revenue for event organizers. The social media influence that accompanied their newfound fame created additional monetization opportunities through sponsored content and brand partnerships. The young actors' substantial follow accounts, providing platforms for commercial relationships that could generate significant income while extending their public profiles beyond their original television roles into broader entertainment and lifestyle categories. The career opportunities that emerged from Stranger Things' success included film roles and other television projects that might never have been available without the series' profile-raising effects. The cast members' proven abilities and established fan bases providing advantages in competitive entertainment industry, where recognition and audience appeal often determined casting decisions regardless of pure acting ability. The long-term financial security that these earnings provided transformed lives of young performers who had entered television industry without guarantees about future employment or income stability. Their Stranger Things success, creating foundation for continued careers, while providing resources for education, investment, and personal development that extended far beyond immediate compensation for acting services. The comparison between their initial modest salaries and final season payouts illustrated dramatic financial progression that paralleled their professional development and series success. The multiplication of their compensation, reflecting both individual growth as performers and collective achievement in creating entertainment property whose global popularity generated revenue streams that could support unprecedented salary levels. The industry impact of these salary negotiations established new precedents for streaming platform compensation that influenced subsequent talent deals across entertainment industry, the willingness to pay film-level salaries for television work, reflecting evolving economics of content creation, where global distribution and multiple revenue streams could justify investments that traditional broadcast economics might never have supported. The legacy of financial success that emerged from Stranger Things demonstrated how effective original content could create value for all participants when properly managed and marketed, the series serving as template for streaming platform investment strategies, while providing young performers with life-changing financial opportunities that reflected their contribution to cultural phenomenon, whose impact extended far beyond entertainment industry into broader, popular culture. The casting decision that would prove most crucial to Stranger Things' emotional authenticity and cultural credibility emerged from the creator's absolute certainty that Joyce Byers could only be portrayed by Winona Ryder, their conviction that her specific combination of vulnerability and fierce maternal protection represented irreplaceable elements that no other actress could provide, creating a situation where dreamcasting became essential requirement, rather than wishful thinking about unattainable talent acquisition. The Duffer Brothers' creative process for developing Joyce's character involved writing dialogue and emotional moments, while hearing Ryder's distinctive voice and imagining her specific approach to conveying desperate, maternal love mixed with growing awareness that institutional forces threatened everything she held dear. Her previous performances providing template for psychological complexity that could anchor supernatural thriller within recognizable human experience of protective instincts pushed beyond normal limits. The decision to center their creative vision around specific performer reflected understanding that certain roles required not just technical acting ability, but authentic emotional resonance that emerged from life experience and artistic sensibility that could not be manufactured through casting, process, or developed through rehearsal and coaching. Joyce's character, demanding actress whose own journey through fame and personal challenges had created wisdom about survival and resilience. Ryder's 1980s and early 90s film career had established her as defining actress of generation that came of age during cultural period that directly inspired Stranger Things. Her roles in Beetlejuice and Heathers and Edward Scissorhands creating artistic foundation that influenced series tone while providing audience touchstone that immediately communicated nostalgic authenticity and emotional credibility for Clust, maternal character facing impossible circumstances. The thematic connections between Ryder's earlier work and Stranger Things extended beyond surface nostalgia into deeper artistic territory, where her exploration of characters caught between conformity and authenticity provided preparation for Joyce's struggle to maintain sanity and protect family while confronting supernatural forces that challenged every assumption about reality and institutional reliability that ordinary people depended upon for psychological stability. Beetlejuice's blend of supernatural horror and dark comedy had demonstrated Ryder's ability to maintain emotional truth within fantastical circumstances. Her portrayal of Lydia Deetz, establishing precedent for characters who could navigate otherworldly experiences without losing human connection or psychological grounding, these skills proving essential for Joyce's journey through interdimensional crisis that required authentic maternal desperation alongside supernatural acceptance. Heather's savage commentary on teenage social dynamics and institutional hypocrisy provided Ryder with experience portraying characters who challenged authority and refused to accept comfortable lies that adults used to maintain social order. this rebellious spirit informing Joyce's willingness to confront government agents and laboratory officials. Despite their superior resources and official authority that might have intimidated less determined individuals. The writer's assumption that Ryder would never consider television work reflected industry prejudices that positioned small-screen programming as inferior to theatrical releases. Their surprise at her enthusiastic response, demonstrating how streaming platforms were beginning to attract established stars who recognized opportunities for complex character development that traditional film projects rarely provided during careers that had been built on movie industry success. Ryder's immediate attraction to Joyce's character and Stranger Things' overall concept reflected her appreciation for storytelling that prioritized emotional authenticity over commercial calculation, her willingness to embrace television work, demonstrating artistic courage that positioned her at forefront of industry evolution, where established stars began recognizing streaming content as legitimate creative outlet rather than career, compromise, or professional step backward. The script quality that convinced Ryder to join Project demonstrated creators' commitment to sophisticated character development that could attract performers whose artistic standards reflected decades of experience with exceptional material. Joyce's role providing opportunities for emotional range and dramatic complexity that challenged actress while serving story requirements that demanded complete believability within supernatural context. Ryder's attachment to Project provided immediate industry validation that transformed speculative streaming experiment into serious production, worthy of attention from other established performers. Her participation, creating gravitational effect that attracted additional talent while reassuring investors that quality control and artistic integrity would guide development process rather than purely commercial considerations. The credibility that Ryder's involvement provided extended beyond simple star power into realm of artistic legitimacy that influenced every aspect of production from script development to visual design. Her presence ensuring that Stranger Things would be taken seriously as creative endeavor rather than dismissed as nostalgic pastiche or demographic-driven content designed primarily for commercial exploitation rather than genuine entertainment value. The cultural authentication that Ryder represented reached peak expression during Screen Actors Guild Awards ceremony, where her emotional acceptance speech became internet sensation that demonstrated genuine appreciation for opportunity to participate in project that had exceeded everyone's expectations, while providing career revitalization that honored her previous achievements while introducing her work to new generation of admirers. The tears and visible excitement that characterized Ryder's acceptance speech reflected authentic gratitude that resonated with audiences who understood that established performers rarely received opportunities to participate in mainstream, culturally significant projects that could redefine their public image, while providing creative satisfaction that commercial success alone could never deliver. Her emotional vulnerability, creating human connection that transcended typical award show presentations. The speech's viral popularity demonstrated public affection for performer whose career had weathered personal challenges and industry changes, while maintaining artistic integrity that audiences respected even when her project choices had not always achieved commercial success. Stranger Things, providing platform for renewed appreciation of talents that had never disappeared despite periods of reduced visibility within entertainment industry. The influence that Ryder's participation had on other casting decisions created domino effect, where established performers became willing to consider streaming content that might previously have been beneath their professional consideration. Her involvement serving as implicit endorsement of television work that helped attract additional talent while establishing precedent for crossover between film and streaming that would reshape industry practices. The mentoring role that Ryder assumed with younger cast members reflected her understanding that successful ensemble work required experienced performers to share knowledge and provide support for less established actors whose careers were being launched through major production that demanded professional behavior and artistic commitment that might have overwhelmed performers without guidance from seasoned colleagues. The natural chemistry that developed between Ryder and David Harbour during their portrayal of adults whose protective instincts brought them together, despite different backgrounds and approaches to crisis management, demonstrated how experienced performers could create believable relationships that provided emotional foundation for supernatural storyline, requiring absolute audience investment in character welfare and mutual support. Ryder's commitment to authentic maternal portrayal involved research into experiences of parents whose children had faced genuine danger. Her understanding that Joyce's desperation needed to feel completely real despite fantastical circumstances, requiring emotional preparation that honored real-world experiences of families dealing with missing children and institutional betrayal that left them without resources or support systems. The balance that Ryder achieved between maternal strength and psychological vulnerability created character who could inspire audience sympathy without seeming weak or helpless. Joyce's determination to protect her children despite overwhelming odds, demonstrating courage that felt authentic because it emerged from genuine love rather than artificial heroic posturing that might have undermined emotional believability. The physical demands that Ryder embraced for role included extensive action sequences and emotional scenes that required stamina and psychological resilience that challenged performer whose previous work had rarely demanded such sustained intensity. Her willingness to undertake physically demanding work, demonstrating commitment that extended beyond dialogue delivery into comprehensive character embodiment. The influence that Joyce's character had on popular culture representations of motherhood reflected Ryder's successful portrayal of parent, whose protective instincts transcended social expectations about appropriate feminine behavior. Her fierce determination providing model for maternal strength that inspired audiences, while avoiding stereotypical presentations of women as either helpless victims or unnaturally competent superheroes. The legacy that Ryder created through Joyce Byers established new standards for complex maternal characters in genre entertainment, her portrayal demonstrating how experienced performers could bring depth and authenticity to roles that might have been reduced to simple archetypes if handled by less skilled or committed actors whose understanding of human psychology had not been developed through decades of diverse, creative experiences. The cultural impact that extended from Ryder's involvement in Stranger Things created opportunities for career renaissance that honored her artistic contributions while introducing younger audiences to performer whose work had helped define crucial period in American cinema. Her participation in successful streaming series providing bridge between different entertainment eras while establishing precedent for established stars, embracing new distribution methods and storytelling formats. The parallel dimension that haunts Hawkins exists as twisted reflection of our familiar world, its dark corridors and decaying structures representing more than simple supernatural threat, but rather embodying complex metaphysical reality that challenges conventional understanding of time, space, and dimensional barriers, while revealing profound truths about how traumatic events can create permanent scars within fabric of existence itself that transcend ordinary physical limitations and human comprehension. The revelation that the Upside Down remains frozen in the precise moment of Will Byers' disappearance on November 6, 1983, transforms what initially appeared to be alternate version of Hawkins into something far more disturbing and philosophically complex, a dimensional snapshot that preserves single instant across years of subsequent time, while suggesting that traumatic events possess power to fracture reality itself in ways that create permanent wounds within universal structure. The implications of this temporal stasis extend beyond simple supernatural curiosity into realm of scientific speculation about how consciousness and reality might interact during moments of extreme crisis. Will's terror and desperation during his capture, apparently creating psychic impression so powerful that it altered fundamental properties of interdimensional space while establishing connection between emotional trauma and physical manifestation that defies conventional understanding of cause and effect. The theory that Eleven's psychic abilities accidentally created the Upside Down during her first encounter with the Demogorgon provides logical explanation for dimensional breach while raising disturbing questions about responsibility and unintended consequences of supernatural power exercised without proper understanding or institutional oversight. Her innocent contact with predatory creature apparently opening doorway that would threaten entire community through actions motivated by scientific curiosity rather than malicious intent. The sensory deprivation tank that facilitated Eleven's initial interdimensional contact represents intersection between real-world consciousness research and fictional supernatural exploration. The flotation chamber, providing environment where normal sensory input was eliminated to allow psychic abilities maximum expression while creating conditions that accidentally enabled contact with entities existing beyond normal, dimensional boundaries that human consciousness had never been intended to access. The moment of contact between Eleven's enhanced awareness and the Demogorgon's alien hunger apparently created sufficient psychic disruption to tear holes in dimensional fabric that separated parallel realities. The collision between human consciousness and otherworldly intelligence, generating forces that neither Hawkins' laboratory scientists nor their experimental subject could have predicted or controlled once unleashed upon unsuspecting community. The scientific basis for parallel dimension theory draws upon legitimate quantum physics concepts, including many worlds interpretation and multiverse hypothesis. These established theoretical frameworks providing foundation for supernatural storytelling that feels plausible because it extrapolates from actual scientific speculation about reality's fundamental structure while maintaining internal consistency that honors both dramatic requirements and theoretical possibility. The quantum mechanical principles that might govern interdimensional travel involve concepts of particle behavior and wave function collapse that suggest reality exists in multiple simultaneous states until observation forces selection of single outcome. Eleven's psychic abilities potentially allowing her to perceive multiple dimensional states while her contact with upside-down entities collapsed wave function in ways that created permanent breach between previously separate realities. The environmental characteristics that define upside-down atmosphere reflect toxic combination of organic decay and industrial contamination. The floating particles and poisonous air, suggesting dimension where natural processes have been corrupted by influences that transform normal biological functions into destructive forces that threaten any living beings unfortunate enough to encounter this twisted reflection of familiar world. The spore-like particles that drift through upside-down atmosphere serve multiple narrative functions, as both environmental hazard and visual symbol of dimensional corruption. Their constant presence, creating sense of infectious contamination, while suggesting that exposure to alternate reality carries risks that extend beyond immediate physical danger into realm of permanent psychological and biological alteration that might affect visitors long after they return to normal dimension. The vine-like growths that cover upside-down surfaces represent organic network that connects various locations within alternate dimension, while suggesting intelligence behind environmental design that exceeds simple random decay. These biological structures appearing to serve communication and sensory functions that allow dimension's predatory inhabitants to monitor and respond to intrusions from normal reality with coordinated efficiency. The mind flayer that serves as apparent ruler of Upside Down represents collective intelligence that transcends individual creature consciousness, its hive mind control over lesser entities, demonstrating organizational capabilities that suggest planned invasion rather than random predatory behavior, while raising questions about whether alternate dimension developed naturally or was created by forces whose motivations remain hidden from human understanding. The possession abilities that Mind Flayer demonstrates through its control of Will and Billy reveals supernatural influence that operates through biological and psychological manipulation, the entity's capacity to override human consciousness, while maintaining host body functions, suggesting advanced understanding of neural systems that enables complete personality suppression without destroying physical vessel required for infiltration purposes. The connection between Upside Down and normal Hawkins that manifests through dimensional bleeding suggests ongoing instability that threatens complete merger between realities. The barriers separating parallel dimensions apparently weakening with each supernatural crisis, while creating conditions where alternate realities' toxic influence could gradually contaminate normal world through accumulated exposure and expanding breach points. The geographical correspondence between normal Hawkins and its upside-down reflection demonstrates dimensional relationship that maintains spatial consistency while inverting environmental conditions, every familiar location existing in corrupted form that preserves structural layout while transforming benign spaces into threatening environments where normal navigation skills become survival requirements rather than simple convenience. The laboratory that exists within both dimensions serves as primary breach point where dimensional barriers remain thinnest. Hawkins National Laboratory's experiments apparently creating permanent weakness in reality's fabric that allows easier passage between parallel worlds while establishing location as ongoing threat to community safety despite official government denials and cover-up attempts. The psychic abilities that allow certain individuals to perceive and interact with Upside Down suggest human consciousness possesses untapped potential for transdimensional awareness. 11's powers representing natural capability that institutional experimentation enhanced and directed, while Will's periodic visions demonstrate that exposure to alternate reality can create lasting sensitivity to interdimensional phenomena. The naming evolution from Nether to Upside Down reflects creators' decision to move away from terminology that might confuse audiences familiar with Minecraft's supernatural realm, the final designation suggesting inversion of normal reality rather than completely separate location, while maintaining sense of familiar world transformed into threatening environment through supernatural influence. The visual inspiration drawn from Silent Hill video game series demonstrates cross-medium artistic influence that adapted interactive entertainment's atmospheric design principles for television production. the horror game's approach to alternate reality presentation, providing template for creating environment that felt both familiar and threatening, while establishing visual language that communicated dimensional corruption through environmental storytelling. The ash-like particles that constantly drift through upside-down atmosphere create visual metaphor for death and decay while serving practical function as atmospheric hazard that threatens anyone attempting to survive within alternate dimension. These floating remnants suggesting environmental catastrophe that has rendered alternate reality uninhabitable for normal life forms, while providing sustenance for predatory entities that thrive in toxic conditions. The temperature differential between dimensions creates additional environmental hazard, while suggesting that alternate reality operates according to different physical laws. The consistently cold atmosphere within Upside Down, reflecting absence of normal energy sources while creating conditions that preserve dimensional snapshot in perpetual state of decay, without progression toward complete destruction or renewal. The structural decay that characterizes upside-down buildings demonstrates accelerated deterioration that suggests time operates differently within alternate dimension. Familiar locations showing years of abandonment despite relatively recent dimensional breach, while creating environments where normal assumptions about safety and stability cannot be trusted by anyone attempting to navigate corrupted reflection of their hometown. The scientific equipment that remains functional within Upside Down Laboratory suggests that certain technologies can operate across dimensional boundaries while others fail completely. This selective functionality providing clues about fundamental differences between realities, while creating opportunities for characters to maintain communication and coordination during interdimensional rescue missions. The healing properties that normal dimension apparently possesses for individuals affected by upside-down exposure demonstrate beneficial aspects of familiar reality that become apparent only when contrasted with alternate dimensions, toxic influence, characters' recovery upon returning to normal world, suggesting that dimensional barriers provide protection as well as separation while maintaining hope for complete healing from supernatural trauma. The expanding influence that Upside Down exercises over normal Hawkins through successive seasons demonstrates growing threat that requires increasingly desperate measures to contain. The alternate dimension's apparent hunger for conquest or consumption, creating ongoing tension, while suggesting that permanent resolution might require complete destruction of dimensional breach or acceptance that both realities might eventually merge into single corrupted existence. The legacy that Stranger Things will leave upon completion of its final season extends far beyond entertainment industry statistics and cultural impact measurements into realm of creative inspiration that has already begun influencing new generation of storytellers whose formative experiences with supernatural adventure and authentic friendship will shape decades of future content creation, while demonstrating how genuine emotion and collaborative artistry can transform simple nostalgia into timeless exploration of human resilience and community strength. The planned conclusion that the Duffer Brothers envisioned from the series' earliest development stages reflects their commitment to structured narrative arc rather than indefinite extension driven by commercial success. Their decision to establish definitive endpoint, ensuring that character development and thematic resolution could proceed according to artistic vision, rather than network pressure or audience demand for continued content regardless of creative necessity or story completion. The consistency of their ending vision throughout multiple seasons demonstrates rare creative discipline that prioritized narrative integrity over financial opportunity. The brothers' refusal to extend story beyond natural conclusion point, reflecting understanding that meaningful closure required careful pacing and emotional preparation. rather than artificial extension that might have satisfied commercial interests, while diminishing artistic achievement and audience satisfaction. The spin-off possibilities that have emerged from Stranger Things' success include anime adaptation that honors series' Japanese cultural influences while exploring different storytelling traditions and visual aesthetics. This cross-cultural creative expansion demonstrating how effective fictional universes can transcend original medium limitations while maintaining thematic consistency that preserves essential character relationships and supernatural mythology. The anime format that provides alternative storytelling approach reflects creators' appreciation for Japanese animation traditions that influenced original series development, particularly horror and supernatural genres that explore similar themes about childhood trauma and institutional betrayal, while offering visual possibilities that live-action production could never achieve within practical budget and technical constraints. The expanded universe potential that exists within comprehensive mythology developed for Stranger Things creates opportunities for exploring different time periods and geographical locations while maintaining connection to established supernatural framework. The 30-page upside-down document providing foundation for stories that could examine how dimensional instability might affect other communities beyond Hawkins, while honoring original series' focus on authentic human relationships. The prequel possibilities that could explore Hawkins Laboratory's early experiments and MK Ultra connections offer opportunities for historical drama that grounds fictional supernatural elements within documented government programs. These stories potentially revealing how institutional abuse created conditions that made interdimensional breach possible, while honoring real victims of psychological experimentation without exploiting their suffering for entertainment purposes. The cultural impact measurement that academic institutions have begun conducting reflects recognition that Stranger Things represents significant phenomenon worthy of scholarly analysis. Universities developing courses that examine series' influence on popular culture, while exploring broader questions about nostalgia, childhood trauma, and community resilience that extend series' relevance beyond entertainment into educational and therapeutic contexts. The 1980s revival that Stranger Things initiated has influenced fashion trends, music preferences, and lifestyle choices across multiple demographic groups. Younger audiences embracing aesthetic and cultural elements from decades they never experienced, while older viewers rediscovering appreciation for period that shaped their own formative experiences. This cross-generational cultural bridge demonstrating art's capacity to create shared references that transcend age boundaries. The academic studies that examine series' psychological themes have identified therapeutic potential within storylines that address trauma recovery and community support systems. Mental health professionals recognizing how character relationships model healthy responses to crisis, while demonstrating importance of maintaining connections during periods when isolation and fear might prevent individuals from seeking necessary help and emotional support. The next generation inspiration that emerges from young creators who grew up watching Stranger Things will likely produce content that combines nostalgic appreciation with contemporary concerns. These future storytellers, having absorbed lessons about collaborative creativity and authentic character development, while bringing fresh perspectives to supernatural and adventure genres that honor established traditions while exploring new possibilities. The theme park attractions that Universal Studios has developed around Stranger Things demonstrate how successful television content can create immersive experiences that extend audience engagement beyond passive viewing into active participation. These installations allowing fans to explore fictional environments while experiencing supernatural encounters that approximate series tension and excitement within controlled entertainment context. The Universal Studios experiences that recreate key locations from series provide opportunities for physical interaction with fictional environments that previously existed only on screen. Visitors walking through Hawkins laboratory corridors and upside-down landscapes, while encountering practical effects and atmospheric elements that honor series' commitment to authentic rather than purely digital spectacle. The merchandise ecosystem that has developed around Stranger Things includes everything from clothing and accessories to collectible figures and home decoration items. These products allowing fans to incorporate series aesthetics into their daily lives, while providing ongoing revenue streams that support continued content development and cast compensation, while demonstrating commercial viability of well-developed fictional universes. The documentary potential that exists within series production history could provide fascinating examination of creative process and collaborative relationships that transformed rejected concept into global phenomenon, behind-the-scenes footage, and cast interviews, offering insights into artistic development while preserving record of creative achievement for future analysis and appreciation by entertainment historians and aspiring creators. The preservation efforts that entertainment historians have begun undertaking reflect recognition that Stranger Things represents culturally significant achievement worthy of comprehensive documentation. These scholars collecting production materials and conducting interviews, while series remains active, rather than waiting for historical perspective that might miss crucial details about creative decisions and collaborative relationships. The Hawkins, Indiana tourism interest that has emerged from series popularity demonstrates how fictional locations can create real-world economic opportunities. Fans seeking to visit filming locations and attractions that connect them to beloved fictional universe, while providing revenue for communities that embrace their association with successful entertainment properties, rather than dismissing such connections as superficial or commercially exploitative. The educational applications that teachers have discovered within Stranger Things content include lessons about friendship, loyalty, moral courage, and institutional accountability. Educators, using series examples to facilitate discussions about ethics and community responsibility, while engaging students through entertainment they already appreciate and understand, rather than purely academic materials that might feel disconnected from contemporary experience. The therapeutic applications that counselors have identified within series exploration of trauma and recovery provide tools for helping clients process their own experiences with loss and institutional betrayal. The character relationships modeling healthy support systems, while demonstrating that healing requires community connection rather than individual isolation that might seem safer but ultimately prevents necessary emotional growth. The lasting influence that Stranger Things will maintain within entertainment industry reflects its demonstration that audiences reward authentic storytelling over formulaic content. The series' success encouraging other creators to invest in character development and emotional truth, while trusting viewers' capacity to appreciate complex narratives that blend multiple genres without sacrificing coherent artistic vision or meaningful thematic exploration. The creative community that has formed around Stranger Things includes fan artists, writers, and content creators whose work extends series' influence, while contributing original interpretations that honor established characters and relationships. This collaborative creativity, demonstrating how effective fictional universes inspire participation rather than passive consumption, while providing platforms for emerging artists to develop skills and find audiences. The technological innovations that series production pioneered in practical effects and hybrid digital techniques have influenced broader industry practices. Other productions adopting approaches that balance authentic craftsmanship with computer enhancement, while recognizing that audiences respond positively to physical elements that provide tactile reality, even when perfect digital. Alternatives might be technically superior or more cost-effective to produce. The conclusion that awaits Stranger Things promises resolution that honors both character development and thematic exploration, while providing emotional satisfaction that reflects investment audiences have made in fictional relationships and supernatural mythology. The creator's commitment to meaningful ending, ensuring that series will be remembered for artistic achievement rather than commercial exploitation of popular property that continued beyond creative necessity or narrative completion. And so we close this gentle exploration of the hidden truths that transformed ordinary creative vision into extraordinary cultural phenomenon, each behind-the-scenes revelation, a thread in the tapestry that became our beloved supernatural adventure. Tonight, we have journeyed through the quiet corridors of creativity, discovering how real government programs inspired fictional horrors, how rejected scripts became streaming sensations, and how authentic human connections elevated simple storytelling into timeless art that continues touching hearts across generations and continents. From the dedication of actors who endured physical discomfort for authentic performances, to the craftspeople who built practical monsters that still haunt our dreams, we see how collective artistry creates magic that no individual effort could achieve alone. The financial transformations that changed young lives, the cultural impacts that revived forgotten music, and the technological innovations that honored traditional filmmaking, while embracing modern possibilities, all demonstrate how genuine creativity emerges from collaboration, patience, and unwavering commitment to truth over convenience. Rest now in the knowledge that behind every magical story are countless human hands working together to create something larger than themselves, their shared dedication proving that the most powerful supernatural force remains the willingness to believe in each other and the stories we tell to make sense of our beautiful, mysterious world. Sweet dreams from Hawkins, where every ending is truly a beginning in disguise.